Good afternoon, and welcome to the 60th episode of My First Job, the podcast. Today, we have three young people, two of whom are joining us right now, and one of whom will join us a little later. What are their career dreams and aspirations? Because they form a group of students who take these exams every year. And the three most important exams in India are not the board exams and the others, but the IIT-JEE, which allows people to enter engineering colleges, UPSC, which prepares people for the civil services, and NEET, which decides the admission for medical colleges. And we have one person from each of these streams joining us today. My name is Venugopal. I head an agency called Ideascape, and we are into marketing, branding, and design. On with the show. The first person on stage, let me bring on Manya, who is studying for her UPSC. She has graduated in political science and international relations from Ashoka University, and she is now in the process of preparing for UPSC. Let me welcome her to the stage. Hi, Manya. Good to have you
Hello.
on the show.
Hi, it's really good to be here.
Great. Next, we will talk to Rakshita, who is the currently writing her 12th standard board exams, but she already knows that she is going to be going in for NEET and she is preparing for that already. She comes, as she told me a little earlier, from a family of doctors. So it seemed almost like this was the chosen path. Hi, Rakshita. Welcome to the show. Good to
Hello,
have you on
sir.
board.
It's my pleasure to meet you.
Okay, great. So, Manya, let's start with you. And where did, how did you decide? Why don't you tell us a bit about your childhood and where you grew up and which of the various places that you've been?
So this is actually a really good question because both my parents are officers. So we got transferred a lot. So I've
Okay.
lived all across UP. I've moved around a lot. I changed about 13 schools as a kid.
Wow,
Um, yeah.
that's a lot.
So, yeah, I've
Yeah.
lived in Agra, Muradabad, Bareilly, Mussoorie, Nainital, Etawah. Right now, I'm in Lucknow. So, I've moved around a lot as a kid. And definitely, with both my parents being officers, I had like very early exposure to civil services and the whole concept of UPSC as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so how was it adjusting to each one of these places, or did you find that it became part of the scene, so you adjusted to it?
Yes. I think when you're little, it's definitely hard. I remember, I think up till class sixth or seventh, I'd be upset about moving cities because I'd have to adjust to like new schools, make new friends, and that's hard. I think for someone who's pretty young, but over time, I got used to it. I think like by class eighth, I would go and give my admission tests to schools alone. Um, it just becomes something you get used to over time, especially if you're shifting around a lot.
Okay.
um I think it also just like helps you adjust to new places and new situations later on in life better.
Right.
So yeah.
That's amazing. And it's a wonderful way to say how this process of moving from place to place itself can prepare you for something which is not. So, if you grow up in just one city, then you get very attached to that city, you form your friends. But here you've had the chance to have friends. So, do you have friends in each of the places that you've lived in? Do you continue to be in touch with them?
Uh, I think not with people who I met when I was really young, but I think like maybe class five onwards, I do
Okay.
have like friends and family friends that I do keep in touch with, and it's weird. You view your friends in like a completely different light when you're younger, and now I see them on social media and they're all doing great things, and
Okay.
they're all now like 22, 23. So it's almost bittersweet sometimes to see them
Right.
through social media and stuff, but I do keep in touch with them. So yeah.
So I know this is hard to answer, but do you have a favorite school? Do you have a set of places which you think have stayed with you a little longer? Or I think it's just one of those things. I want to know how you feel.
Um, so I think the longest I ever spent in one school is around 4 years. That's the longest I've ever spent in one place. Mm, but I do think that my experience during my class 11th and 12th in Lucknow in La Martiniers Girls College, I think that was pretty good. I think maybe because I was older, um, and some of my friends from school back then are still like people who are like just my best friends even now. So I think
Okay.
Lucknow was probably some of schooling in Lucknow holds like some of my fondest memories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, Rakshita, let me ask you, did you just told me that you come from a family of doctors? So, was it easier to make up your mind?
No, so firstly, it was not easy, I can say. Means it's a little bit confusing task for me. As I say
Okay.
that doctor is a struggling life. Firstly, I thought that. And
Okay.
also giving the competitive means a lot of competitive exams, cracking
Right.
it, it's not easy task for all of us.
Okay.
And preparing for it for so many years, and then after getting a job for an after internship, and means I have taken this decision after a long time.
Okay.
Approx means when I was in eighth class, then I start thinking about it at eighth and means end of the year. Then I completely thought, okay, yeah, I want to be a doctor.
Okay. So, what
Yeah.
are the things, alternatives you considered? What are the things that you said, maybe I could look at this?
Maybe I have never seen, because
Okay.
if I means I have already studied about it, and also it's my opinion that if we want to do something, and if we are preparing, basically if we are preparing for any competitive exam, then we must not look for an alternative, because if we look for an alternative or if we choose, then your mind get diverted, and if it is
Okay.
diverted, then you would be a little confused, and there are the chances get low that they will
Okay.
be get
Okay.
selection. And
Great.
there was an incident also, means
Huh.
there was a counseling session in a school.
Hmm.
So one teacher was there who asked the question that
Hmm.
what can be, means the counseling was on choosing the different options, career
Hmm.
options. So
Okay.
I raised the question that why to choose the different options if we have one. Then
Okay.
she wasn't having a reply of it. I don't know why.
Okay. So, I guess you're one of those children who's, has a goal early on in life, because there are some people who may not know what they want to do and they take their own time to decide. But in your case, you're saying that from the eighth standard. So you come from a family of doctors, you said. So
Yes.
your parents are both doctors and they practice in the city you're living in?
No, sir. My father is a professor. Means like in my family means family members, relation. All my
Okay.
relation are of doctors, and some are of
Okay.
advocates. It's of mixture, and
Okay.
mostly of my parental side, paternal is of doctors, and maternal is of
Okay.
advocates. And my
Okay.
father is professor, and my mother is a
Okay.
homemaker. Yeah,
Okay. Great.
but I decided to be
Okay.
a doctor.
Okay. So, Manya, let me ask you in terms of, what were your influences early on? You switch job, I mean, switch cities. So that was one thing. So, did your parents have this discussion with you as to what you're going to do next? Or were you in your own mind trying to figure out? Where do I go from here?
Um, I think it's a bit of a combination of both.
Okay.
Um, because both my parents are also officers, that definitely did influence me. I mean, I think it's pretty similar to,
Yeah.
Rakshita, in the sense that she comes from a family of doctors. Both my parents are
Right.
officers. So,
Right.
um, uh, but I think I always also took interest in their work. Like, I was very fascinated. Whenever I was little, I would go to their office, and I was just, I think, like, in awe of the whole system. When I grew older, I mean, I think that's when I realized, how difficult UPSC as an exam really is. But I had like multiple conversations with my parents about it because I was studying political science and international relations. I could get a job if I wanted to. I could go abroad and do my master's. But I really did want to just buckle down for like maybe a couple of years and try to do this. So um, I think my parents did influence me in a way, but it was also something that I wanted to do of my own volition. Maybe my circumstances also influenced me, all the moving around and stuff. But I've always had a interest in governance, public policy, international relations. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay. What about what Rakshita just said, which is that if you distribute your thought among two or three options, is that, do you think that is something that is good, or do you think that you should be focused on your future?
This is actually, I think, something I struggled with a bit because after graduating last year, most of my friends got jobs and some of them went abroad for masters. So it can be a little difficult, to be like the odd one out who's sitting at home studying all day, just preparing for an exam. Um, I don't think it's bad to have options. I think having a plan B can make you feel secure. I think it can provide you some assurance, especially for an exam like UPSC, because there's so many people appearing for it. There's so much uncertainty involved. But I also think that a plan B should be a plan B. So if you're focusing on something, you should try to, I guess, give your 100%, you should, I think it also has to do a little bit with having faith in yourself. Most of these
Right.
competitive exams are like games of like mental strength almost. So you need to have like a certain amount of faith and belief that you're going to be able to do it. Having a plan B in the works, I'd say, for UPSC, I don't think it's a bad idea, because also you, or like, give the exam after you're, or done with your undergrad and stuff. So it's sort of like a security net that people can have. So for UPSC, I
Okay.
don't think it's a bad idea to have two options. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Rakshita, I'm going to ask you here, how do you go about studying? What are the things that you look at when you say, okay, I need to answer the NEET exam? Where does your preparation begin?
So from preparation, I guess from class 11th or from 12th only.
Okay.
And about studying, I can say means uh, like as we say that it's a very comprehensive syllabus of NEET. So for that, we have to first analyze the data and all the information that whatever we have to prepare, all the syllabus. Then we just look at the board syllabus also, because in
Hmm.
11th exam there's just a school exam. But if
Right.
we talk about 12th, it's all the syllabus included and all the chapters are coming. And at that time also we have to prepare for NEET also, means both 11th and 12th, and basically 12th also. So half of the syllabus of 12th is covered. So if I talk about 11th syllabus, that we have to cover up in last of the 6 months basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
when
how do you go about studying? Do you have a certain plan? Do you say you have a timetable? You have some, how do you break up your day when you're studying?
So breaking up a day just in continuous time, I can't say that. But like if we say that we can study 6 hours, then we can break that 6 hours in 2 hours or 1.5 hours. If we are giving 2 hours to a particular subject for NEET, uh, th- we just have to give three subject particularly: physics, chemistry, and biology. So we can
Okay.
give 2 hours to all three subjects. And if we are giving 1.5 hour per day to a subject, and in that way we can also manage our 12th exam, 12th for board exams. And if we are using reliable books, if we are using for MCQs basically, then we can use it or utilize our time.
Okay. Great. So, Manya, how would you go about preparing? Is there a way in which have you worked out a schedule? Is there a way that you have? Some people think that they study better at night. Some think that waking up early in the morning is better. What's your schedule like?
Um, it's because I think UPSC covers or like almost every subject you can think of. Like, it's not just humanities. It's also maths, science, English.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, Not to mention there's exams for language proficiency in which you have to qualify
Right.
English as well as like a regional language that you're comfortable with. uh it's hard to make a very like strict timetable for UPSC because you have to distribute your attention evenly to every subject. I The way I function is I make weekly timetables and I have monthly goals. So I aim to finish certain sections, certain topics in like 1 week. So by the for example, if I want to cover geography, I'm going to have, okay, I want to cover half of my geography syllabus by the end of Feb, and then I'll divide it into weeks. It's
Okay.
also difficult because the scope of the syllabus is so much. Often you feel like you're reading and learning, and then when you revise it you feel like, oh god, I've forgotten everything.
Okay.
So it's a fine balance between learning, giving practice tests, and then revising. It's difficult, but you have to maintain a fine balance. And um, I know a bunch of UPSC aspirants, and a lot of them study late into the night. A lot of them wake up early. For me, my parents disagree with this, but it's hard for me to wake up super early. I've been trying to, but I'm just not very good at it. So I do study late into the night. That's also something I did in my college days. So maybe it's just carried over from that. But I guess it's to each their own. Like finding a time of the day where you can focus. If it's morning or night, I don't think it matters. So yeah.
Okay. So that's how it is. Okay. There's this thing that children today are from the seventh and eighth standard, like you, both Rakshita and you said, are focused on, getting to the next stage of your uh, career or life, which means that you have very little time to focus on things that you may enjoy, but have very little time to do. Have you felt that that is true? I'll ask Rakshita and then come back to you as well, Manya. Yeah. So are you giving up anything, Rakshita? Do you feel that you don't have time to do the things that you really like?
So giving your time to anything depends on us basically, that how we are managing the time and
Okay.
at what time we have to do whatever we want. So basically the pastime at what we do, we just can decrease our time
Okay.
for if someone means if someone likes to watch TV, they can decrease the time. But I don't think that will work out if we are preparing for any of the competitive exams. But because it allows us to walk out for means it allows us to just walk out so that it
Okay.
can refresh our mind. But watching TV cannot refresh our mind, na, so that it cannot just be a
Okay. So
pastime.
what do you do to relax? What do you do to take your mind off the tensions? Or you want to take a break? What do you do?
So we can take a power nap of
Okay.
5 to 10 minutes minimum
Okay.
or
Okay.
maximum.
I'm quite amazed that you're conversant with power naps and this thing at your age, which is wonderful. But Manya, yeah, how do you see this? Do you have a way of approaching this? What are the ways in which you take a break and come back to studying? Or
I think with UPSC, it's harder to do things you enjoy doing and you like doing. Even if you want to, there's like a constant pressure and guilt that there's other people who are studying more than you, and there's so much syllabus to cover. Uh, it can be really hard. A lot of UPSC aspirants burn out really fast, really quick, and the process of UPSC is just so long. If you don't make it through the prelims that happen in May, you have to wait an entire year all over again. So the process itself is exhausting. Studying for it is exhausting. Um, but I do try to find time to do things I like, even if it's just one day of the week, or even if it's at night, or sometimes I give myself like, oh, okay, I'm going to cover X number of topics, and after that I'm going to do this and I'm going to take a break. um, I think it's very important to sort of add that time and space for yourself in your schedule, because most competitive exams are, they're just such a long drawn out process. There's always so
right,
much pressure involved. You really have to take care of your health, both mentally and physically, if you want to perform well. So yeah, I
right,
actively try to like take out time for myself.
okay. Now, in terms of where this is going, which is you're doing your UPSC, you're doing, studying for that. Rakshita's working on NEET and then trying to figure out, okay, what do I? But let's step back for a minute and then say, okay, do you know exactly when you felt that, hey, I'm no longer a kid? Or the point at which you feel that when you could be absolutely free and do the things you like are behind you? Or you didn't have to worry about anything, but now you have to slowly shift. So in your mind, when did that happen? Either one of you can go. Yeah. So Manya, since you're there, go ahead.
For me, I think it was, I think last year,
Okay.
during May, when I graduated college. uh,
Okay.
I think that was like the first time I felt like I was stepping into the real world.
Okay.
Because college is definitely like a step up from school. You live on your own, you manage a lot of things on your own. Your parents aren't there to help you out with everything. Definitely there's like a lot more independence. But I think last year, when a bunch of my friends got jobs, um, that's when everything started to seem a bit more serious. That's when it felt like, oh god, like I'm not in like a school or a college anymore. I really need to like make something out of myself. It's definitely like a scary thing. Last year it happened. Now I've made peace with it. Now I've
Okay.
realized that it's going to be a long process. Even my friends who already have jobs feel like this. uh, it's hard to step out of your comfort zone, especially I think with Ashoka. It's a residential campus, so you're living
Right.
with people your age. um it's almost like someone's burst your bubble, but I also think that's honestly a little needed, because it sort of like puts you into a state where you actively try to move forward in life.
Okay. Great. So Rakshita, what about you? Which was the point at which you said, hey, I'm not a kid anymore?
So actually, I can't say personally,
Or
means
you
I
still
can't say
feel
about
that you're perfectly
anyone.
okay being a kid
Yeah,
right now?
actually, means sometimes I do, but
Yeah.
normally I feel that whenever we step forward, once we step forward, then for a while we felt that, yeah, I have never felt like this, and now I have get matured. And
Okay.
whenever we get one by one, when we get a step forward, and then we start getting feel that, yeah, now I'm not a kid anymore. I'm getting to learn something new. And whenever
Okay.
we when that point comes, that when we learn something new, then the maturity comes. And that I felt at the starting of 12th, basically, that,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So another thing which I want to, there's this belief that girls and young women can actually put a lot more work into studying than guys can. Is it well founded, or do you believe this is just a misconception? There are guys who study just as hard as women do, or is it that women have this special ability, or girls have this special ability to put in a lot more? No? Yes?
Sorry, sir,
Rakshita?
means like what?
No, in the sense that if you can sit, like you said, for 6 hours, you can plan those 6 hours.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that guys actually spend 6 hours? Because when I was in college, I don't think any of us put in that kind of, serious study, even during the final exams. So
Yeah.
you managed to actually sit down for 6 hours and then go through it? You still do?
No, sir, nowadays I haven't seen that many of the students can six, particularly based for 6 hours continuously.
Okay.
So simultaneously sitting for 6 hours cannot be possible for anyone. We have to take breaks, either
Yeah.
of 10 minutes or either of 15 minutes.
Right.
So it
Right.
is important also, as the doctor
Right.
also suggested. So
Right.
it's not possible
Okay.
for me also. Therefore, I suggested it. Means taking 2 hours. In that two
Okay.
hours also, if you are taking 15 minutes gap, then you can
That
just
works.
revise your topic. And in
Okay.
that 15 minutes after revising your topic, you can move further.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So Deepa has put up this question, which I think will apply to both of you. Let me ask Manya first, which is, do you both go for coaching classes, and does that help?
Um, I think my answer might be a little bit controversial, but I don't know about NEET. But for UPSC, I did go for a coaching class. I was in Delhi for a couple of months last year. I was taking a coaching for political science and IR. Um, I would say that coaching classes, I think, only help if you're from like a completely different background as to what UPSC requires. Um, Say you're an engineer or a doctor or someone in, economics or finance. I think maybe then classes can be helpful for you, but because I was in Delhi, I was living in Rajendra Nagar, which is like the heart of like UPSC preparation. The entire area is just filled with,
Right.
UPSC aspirants. Um, I think today coaching classes have just become businesses, just like a way of making money. So kids go there and, they study. But I felt really disillusioned with them, which is why I came back to Lucknow. I feel like if you're focused and disciplined enough, if you feel like you have like a tiny bit of knowledge about the subject you're studying, which I did for political science, you can probably do like a much better job on your own. A lot of people told me and recommended that I take coaching classes. I don't feel like they're the best because most coaching classes have like 100 to 200 kids in like one batch. Often it's like you can't ask your doubts. They cost a lot of money. They're a really big time commitment. You can also sometimes feel like you're constantly comparing yourself to other people in your class, which can just, often like just set you back
Right.
mentally.
Right.
So unless you have like no idea what UPSC is about, you've never studied physics, political science or history or geography, I would suggest then maybe take it.
Okay.
If you're
Great.
going in for a specialized subject, then it's okay, but these classes are often like 50-50. If you have like a support system and stuff, I would say don't go to these classes. You'll do a
Okay.
lot better on your own. Yeah.
Great. So Neerja has joined us now.
Hi.
And hi, Neerja. Welcome to
Hello,
the
Mr. Rita.
show. Hi. And Neerja has cracked the JE. She is now into IIT and she's studying aeronautics engineering. So, Neerja, why don't you give us a bit of a background about yourself and where you grew up and what were the kind of things that you did early on. I just went through that with Rakshita and Manya. So why don't you
Mm-hmm.
bring us up to speed?
Sure. So I grew up in Hyderabad,
Okay.
and it was fairly nothing unique about me growing up. I was just a decent kid in school who was good at stuff. Let's say not the best kid, not the best performing kid. At the same time, not an average kid, so somewhere in between.
Okay.
And then that's fairly about it. I never really had a pre-coaching before 11th and 12th. So I was in coaching for 2 years before I cracked JEE.
Okay. So did you go through classes for IIT JEE for JEE? You went through coaching
So
classes? This is
right. So think Hyderabad is. So we have
okay.
institutes who are sort of like dummy schools,
Okay.
and they give you coaching as well.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
is what I went through. But then
Okay.
for me, it was mostly online. So their
Okay.
purpose of having a coaching sort of thing was defeated online.
Okay. And how many hours a day were you putting in? What was the kind of time that you put in to study?
So my coaching in specific was supposed to be from 6:30 in the morning to 10 in the night. But
Wow.
that was not all the time I've put in, at least
Okay.
online. So I used to
Okay.
take breaks according to my needs. So let's say I would study around 10, 12 hours, including my classes.
Okay. So you actually managed to put in that kind of time on a daily basis or whenever at that
Yeah.
point.
So for most days, I would put in that effort. But then on the days where I felt I needed a break, I would take breaks that I wanted
Okay.
because consistently putting in that much effort is not very healthy.
Okay. Okay. Fair
Considering,
enough.
yeah.
No, tell me, Neerja, you complete. So putting in that amount of
So
effort is not
the thing is, a lot. What I've noticed in a lot of my peers was they did not take sleep seriously,
okay.
and my coaching hours when we started going offline were very weird. Um, so I used to go home back at 11 o'clock, and then I had to wake up again at 5:30 in the morning, which didn't
Okay.
sit well with me. So I used to take proper breaks, and a lot of people did not emphasize on sleep, which I think is very bad.
Okay. Right. So there's a question which I think is for Manya. So I'll put you on to so address your mistake. But then you've not written the UPSC exam as yet, right? So I'm not
No, I
very sure what.
haven't.
So this is. So I think you haven't. You've done perfectly well on that score. So let me just try and understand. Okay, this we've talked about the preparation. We've talked about the. But okay, just take a step back now. I'm just saying you have decided your future. So Rakshita, for a moment, imagine that NEET was not fixed, that you still had a chance. This is simply to try and understand what is it, how is it that you function as people? So let's say that assume you were not doing this. Do you remember a time in school or college when you were doing something where you completely lost track of time?
So yeah means yeah. No,
Okay.
I
So
that
what happened? What happened? What was it that you were doing that you enjoyed? Or
enjoyed
is
this.
it that, in the sense, what is it that you were doing apart from, was it studying? Was it a particular subject that you really liked? Or was it some activity in school or college where you thought that, you know, this is good?
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying
activity in the
myself.
sense I was particularly good at singing.
Okay. 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 So singing was something where you could go on for hours. It's something that you could really do.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So what about you, Manya? What are the things that, in your mind you found that, hey, because school can be a real drag at times, right? You're getting in and then saying, okay, how do I get to 4 o'clock in the evening? So so what are the
Right.
things that are going through your mind?
Um, wow, this is a tough question. I feel like there's sometimes I feel like I like to do everything apart from study, especially in school. I was incorrigible. But I don't think it was like any particular subject as such, but I've always loved reading and I've loved cooking.
Okay.
So sometimes I think that if UPSC doesn't pan out, I'm gonna start a small cafe or a bakery. I cook very frequently, even now. I bake a
Okay.
lot. I think it's a really good way, to relieve stress. It's just
Right.
something that I think it's always been a part of my life. So sometimes I look back and I'm like, if I hadn't chosen this path, maybe I'd be in like, culinary school or something right now.
Right. Okay. Great. What about you, Neerja? What are the things that you really like doing apart from having to prepare for JE, which you've already got past?
Yeah. So I really like reading fiction.
Okay.
That was
Any particular
one thing.
author? Any particular genre?
I like reading fantasy the most.
Okay.
And my favorite series would still be Harry Potter, which I read back in grade 7.
Okay.
So
You
it's
guys
just that,
are the Harry Potter generation, right? I mean, for all of us, my generation is Enid Blyton and Hardy Boys,
right.
and I'm sure your parents must have told you about them sometime or whatever it is. But so,
Oh, and it, like, I've read her books as well. I mean, a couple of them.
oh, you do. Okay,
I mean, her books are
great.
great.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that was a more what do you say, easy time, and you had a lot of time. The number of activities which you had on hand was, I think, a little fewer. You had more time to make friends, but this is right now life can get really hectic pretty quickly once you get past your seventh and eighth, and it's like after that it just doesn't stop. You you kind of you're forced to the sing. So Rakshita, what were your, so you said you sing, right? So what do you do? What kind of songs do you like singing? Is it Hindi? Is it classical film songs? What kind of songs do you like?
So songs mostly I like classical and or Bollywood songs particularly, but also I'm a
Okay.
classical singer.
Okay.
Means I
Okay.
have degree, yeah, of classical singing.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
another thing which can really help to, take your mind off things when you want to sit back and relax a bit. Or, these are good things to have on an ongoing basis. Okay.
yeah. That's my
Um,
also parents would say that you can do whatever you want and your pastime.
yeah, yeah, that's true. The recently there's been this rule which came in saying that you can only have, until you're 16. The government has said that you can't join a class until you're 16. Do you think that's a good move, or do you think that people need to start earlier, student needs to prepare earlier?
Oh,
So,
yeah, Rakshita,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
yeah, you may.
Okay, so
yeah,
what I've noticed in coaching was, we had students in my coaching center who were there since like grade 5, grade 8, and all. So those students did not particularly show progress during their coaching period in 11th and 12th. So our coaching goes like this. So we have a teaching period, and then we have a revision period. So during the the teaching period, these students who had a background seemed to score better than the ones without a coaching background. But once we moved on to revision, the ones who did not have coaching have improved significantly than the ones with the pre-coaching. So I don't think it's a good idea to have a coaching from grade 8 because it kind of numbs you out.
okay. So
So
that's how you feel, right?
yeah, but then the 16 age limit might be a bit of an issue considering I was 15 and a half when I joined 11th grade. So a lot of
Okay,
students might have to take a year off.
okay, okay. What about you, Manya? How do you see it?
Uh,
You
I
already told me that coaching centers are not so. Maybe this is not really your this thing, but do you think that if it's older, you're better equipped to deal with the stress?
I think definitely. I think so when I was in class 8th, my parents did put me in a coaching for IIT-JEE. This is before they realized I was absolutely terrible at physics. So their aspirations went down the drain. But it definitely puts a lot of pressure on kids to always just perform and do well. I feel like till the time they're in school, we should like, I mean, when I look back, I think it's so important to let, children in school enjoy their childhood, because the minute they go into college, there's just so many responsibilities that are thrown on them. And there's so many things you can only do when you're living at home, when you're in school. There's
Right,
just so much out there to explore. Definitely, I think what Neeraja said about, a lot of students might have to take a gap year, and that might be an issue for a lot of different reasons. Some people might need to get into a good college right out of school and stuff, especially in the case of like IITs or AIMS. But I think coaching's really like, I, I I feel like they quash, children's spirit sometimes. I feel like they don't always work in favor. So
right.
I don't support. I actually completely support the law. No classes before 16.
No classes before 16. Rakshita, what about you? You're okay with the earlier they start, the better, or you need help from coaching centers? You believe that it's good to have help from coaching centers?
So they have 50-50 chances, because in my case I didn't feel any, means same as Manyadi said, means there was no, I have also joined several coaching centers. In 11th I had joined, but I didn't feel anything, so I just left it, and they blamed me only that there was your fault. So I didn't feel anything, but some students need help, means they felt that a teacher can only help them, they need a support. So
Okay,
coaching centers help them, and they also understand what kind of problem a student have, so they support them and they provide also the materials that helps the children. So
okay,
it can be helpful for the child who is preparing for competitive exam. So
okay.
this is
Great,
good.
right. So, Nirja, let me ask you, since you've passed JE and you've got through, now that you've joined IIT, do you feel at some point that, hey, this thing doesn't stop? I was supposed to get over with this after I passed JE, and here I am working just as hard, or things have got actually tougher because the classmates and the pressure is relentless.
Well, actually, I mean, that's true because I'll give you an example. So, students in IITs at what, I mean, till they have joined here, have always been like toppers in their schools or particular coaching centers. And here it's like you're you're in the best of the country, and
Yeah,
there's someone who has to take the position of the average or the below average. So you
right.
cannot expect yourself to stand out here as well. And if you do want to stand out, you will have to put in extra effort, which again feels the same as coaching if you do not take it right. But then again, it has become tougher because you're competing with people who are maybe smarter than you or at your pace in itself. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Fine. So I think we've talked a lot about preparations and how do you get into each one of these aspects of, you know, competitive exams. Life is difficult, and okay, there are a couple of questions which people have been asking. So let me put that up first. This is for you, Manya.
Uh,
UPSC prep. You can read the question. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
for yeah. Um, think on their feet. All right. I think I think it's the process of preparation itself. One thing I realized about UPSC is that you read so much. You read so much from every single subject, and you keep up with current affairs. And um, when you're reading new things every day, learning small things about new subjects, it's sort of especially with like the whole current affairs thing, it sort of feeds itself into your mind, and these things you recall at a later time. The process of preparation also requires a lot of discipline. I think when you prepare for UPSC, you also grow holistically as a person, because if you want to do preparation right, you have to be disciplined, you have to take care of your mind, of your body. I think the process itself, after a point, enables you to think on your feet. I've only been doing this since, I mean, I think it's been almost like a year for me now. I do think that I know a lot more about the world and different subjects, than when I started. But that's only because I've been studying so much every day. The process
Okay.
itself, at the end of it, sort of enables you to think on your feet. It's just a really slow and
Just
gradual
something that
process.
you get used
Yeah.
to. Okay. So there's another question which is for everyone. So since you already are there, Manya, let me uh, mugging up something versus understanding. Do you believe mugging up is necessary? So I'll come to Rakshita and Neeraja, but what is your take on this?
I think it depends on the chapters. Definitely, if it's like a definition or a theorem, you might need to mug it up. But I think understanding is key to concepts, because the moment you understand something, even if you're not able to learn the exact words, the exact definition, you can always recall it from memory. Everything you read is stored in some part of your brain. So the minute you understand it, it becomes easier for you to recreate that in an exam. I always
Okay.
think understanding is way more necessary than just blindly mugging up a concept.
Okay. Rakshita, how do you look at it? While preparing for NEET, are there a lot of things that you need to be? I mean, one thing about doctors is that you need to memorize a whole lot of things. Once you become a doctor, then I believe just the number of names of the bones in the body is long enough to
Yes,
go
true.
through. There is no way that you can. Yeah.
Yes, it's a fact that we must understand that concept because it's necessary. But also somewhere means at some points we have to
Right.
remember that also some teachers also say that these are the key points you have to learn this same by same means in chemistry also there are some
Right.
formulas chemistry and physics that we
Right.
have to learn and understand same.
Right.
So understanding the concept is must, but sometimes if we just mug it up, it's okay. It's not much
It's not bad.
big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Nirja, what about you? What do you think? You've
So,
already
I
got
mean,
through
I would
JEE. So,
always say understanding is better than mugging up. But Then, while preparing for competitive exams, at one point, the difference between memorizing stuff where it's needed and mugging up, it's sort of a very thin line that often disappears. For example, there are certain things in chemistry that you have no choice but to memorize. There's like no logical reasoning behind it. So, in that instance, it's mugging up. There's no understanding for it. But when it comes to physics or math, I would say understanding is important because you can like mug up 100 different models of questions. There will always be a different version that they can ask you.
Okay. Okay. Great. So now let's look at some of the other things in terms of where are you going from here? Manya, you've already said that, let's say, uh, things work out, then fine. Otherwise, you'll even look at culinary arts or something like that. What is it that. So, alternative careers, let's assume that what are the things you said plan B. So, Manya, you've told us about your plan B. So, Neeraja, what is your plan B? Do you have something else that you'd like to explore as well?
So,
It's plan
after,
B. It's not, yeah, it's not the main thing that you, yeah.
I mean, for now, I don't really have a plan A in itself because I've cleared JEE. I'm done with that. Now I need to look on at a career.
Okay.
So after coming here, I've realized I really don't need to find a career in my major. I can explore
Okay.
a wide variety of things. So, I mean, after a particular point, your career does not have to be your major at all. So, right now, I'm exploring a good couple of things. I am interested in quant, which is quantitative
Okay.
finance. And
Right.
I've also been thinking about core aerospace engineering. Not really sure where I would want to go in the next few years.
Okay. But good. These are the things that obviously have realized that those strengths are important. Rakshita, if you after NEET, after getting through your basic MBBS, what specialization do you think? Or do you think that there is something else that you would like to explore?
So right now I have thought of neurosurgeon.
Okay.
Yeah, as
So
I
that is
have
where you'd
means
like to, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
means being a doctor particularly I have also decided because I have also a disorder that is absence seizures that is related to brain.
Okay.
So getting more about it, getting know more about it, and on researches about it. So I have decided to be a neurosurgeon yet, and
Okay.
after getting
Great.
into MBBS, then I will
Right.
think about
Right.
it.
No, but it's good to plan for the future and then say, okay, this is where I'd like to be. Okay. How much time do you spend thinking of what do you think a career should be? I think there's one question we'll take from Ravi, which is, have you compared the admission process in India with what happens abroad? And do you think that what we're doing, a whole lot of our effort is on rote learning. You're supposed to memorize, which is what your MCQs and all that are all about. So do you think but Indian students seem to do very well when they go abroad. So we might think that, hey, this is not good, but it seems to work. What is your take?
Can I take the question?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Um, I was thinking of applying for master's programs in a lot of other countries abroad. Um, I think the admission process in India, um, sometimes I feel like we can't compare admission processes here and admission processes anywhere else just because of the sheer population of India. There's just so many people competing for the same spots in, like, the handful of like the top colleges in India. I feel like with other countries, it's just so hard to compare because we don't have like the same demographics. I do think that the emphasis and focus on rote learning we have here really prevents people from thinking critically and analyzing situations. I feel like study is like more of a chore here, something that you have to do, not something that people want to do.
You
I
enjoy,
feel like
yeah.
yeah, I feel like the system is at like a little bit at fault here. Like, how many seats do our IITs have? How many seats do our aims have? There's a very limited number. So of course, like, people have to, do rote learning and study for like 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Admission processes there, I guess they're different in the sense that they don't only look at your marks. They want a very holistic student, which is why kids these days are doing like a bunch of internships. They're trying to play sports or trying to engage in like other stuff, music, dance, painting. I think the reason Indian students do so well abroad is because we're used to working and functioning in such a high pressure, highly competitive environment, because we're not given a choice. We know, like, if we want something good, we're gonna have to, like, fight a little bit for it.
Very
There,
quickly
where,
to get
like,
there. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside, where resources are, like, a little bit, like, available, like, more for everybody, I guess it's just easier for them to thrive.
Okay. Great. Rakshita, what's your, sorry, Neerja, what's your take? Admission
Well,
process.
the number of students that go abroad are like fairly low,
Yeah.
and the
Comparatively.
ones
Okay.
that go abroad, I mean, they're brought up differently compared to everyone else. But again, like Manya said, if we adopt admission processes like other countries, the number of admissions that they've taken would not be the same. I mean,
Not be the same.
you will have multiple
People.
rounds to apply as well because
Yeah.
most countries they take in essays as applications, and I don't think there's anyone that's going to sit and read through like 1 lakh essays. Like no college would want to do that.
Okay. Okay. Rakshita, what do you think? You think it's tough? Medicine is just getting tougher every year. It would be, you think students who are applying for medicine abroad have it easier than you do?
So yeah, that would not be easier as in sense, but because as studies also say that in India there are also great doctors. So
Yeah.
uh, it's
Yeah. It's
I
hard
can't
to.
say.
Okay. So I think we've been talking for an hour now. There's one question that I'd like to end on, which is each of you can go and the same. Do you think your parents had an easier time and it is more difficult for you today than it was for them to decide? Or you have more choice, they had less choice, which is easier? Let's close with that. Okay. Manya?
Um, I think it's a difficult question to answer because both things are difficult. I guess our parents were forced to take care of their families, build a future, uh, and they were like expected to, like, walk a very fine line, like, oh, you can either become an engineer or a doctor, or I guess we do have more choice, but I don't think our parents had to face the same amount of competition today and the same amount of societal pressures today, as they did back then. I think both situations are tougher, but at least in my case, my parents don't expect me to provide for the family. They want me to get a good job and succeed because that's just what they want for
What
me.
you,
I think
yeah.
our situations are different, and I think both are equally hard.
Okay. Great. Rakshita, what do you think? You think your parents had it easier, you have it easier, or you have the
So
same
it's a bit
problems
tricky
that.
question, but means according to my parents, they always say that at back days they were having a good time, and the school days were less. They were having time for themselves also. They get time for studies also,
Right,
and they can spend time with their family also. And nowadays you are just busy in your studies and your laptops and doing always the homeworks and all the stuff and
right,
preparing for all the exams.
right,
So but if we say that we have more choices, then the competition is also get raised by the time they had. So we can
right.
say that if we have choices, then the competition is also more.
will be more. Right.
than them. Yeah.
Okay. Nirja, what do you think?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that they had it easier.
Okay.
Um, but then at one point they were forced to grow up faster than we did. The number
Okay.
of choices they had were limited, but then they did not have this whole they just had to be specialized in like one particular stream of things. So let's say you're becoming an engineer, all you have to do was be good at stuff engineering related. You want to be a doctor, you just work on it. But right now, let's say on a corporate level or anything, you want to build a career. There are a whole lot of things that you need to be good at. It's just not one thing. And now they're looking forward to more holistic individuals than any like one stream person. So in
Right.
that sense, we have a little lot more on our plate. But then support from parents wise, I think we have it easier than they did.
Okay.
We have someone to lean back, rely on, get advices about things.
Right. Great. Thank you all for being so articulate. When I started this whole thing, I thought that you would be. Um, I'm sort of very happy to hear all of you speak because you seem very clear headed and very determined about what are the challenges that you have and how you're going to handle them. And you're pretty well aware of what you're up against, which is probably ours was more the age of innocence where you sort of figured out, but now you have to adjust to a world which is far more competitive and demands a lot more. But thank you all for coming on the show. And I had a wonderful time talking to you. Okay. Thank you very much. And all the best to you in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much for having us.
Bye. Bye. That was a conversation with three young people who are more or less decided on where they'd like to get to in future. Next week, we'll have a new guest, a new program, a new career journey. Join us and let's explore what is it to get my first job. Thank you as always for listening.